set it for record.
Mhm.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Cathy Hailey, Northern Virginia Regional Vice President of the Poetry Society of Virginia. And I'm here with Angie Dribben, who is the Vice President of the Western Region and the founder of the program. Thank you, Angie. I'm excited to be part of Virginia Voices and get to know poets from around the state. I've done some traveling in the last couple of weeks, and it's comforting to know how easy it is to connect with other poets in Virginia and beyond. The way we value each other's voices and respect individual approaches to writing, no matter how different they are from our own, is really reassuring. In Williamsburg, in a classroom setting, the Poetry Society of Virginia Annual Festival, I enjoyed a more academic approach to poetry gathering with some magnificent poetic voices. And I also enjoyed, I also witnessed the new Hearth Memorial to the enslaved people associated with the College of William and Mary. That was really fascinating. I went in the daytime. Someone else, Cheryl T. Cooley, took pictures of it at night and posted it in the PSV Facebook page. So some of you might like to take a look. They're really beautiful photos. Also, I went to Floyd, and there in a tent with a stage along the Little River, I was welcomed to a more casual festival where I presented a short workshop and enjoyed readings, performances, including music and freestyle, workshops and open mics. Both were wonderful experiences. And I see some of the people that I have met in Floyd here today. Today, I'm grateful to connect virtually, especially because of the trials and tribulations of the drive down to Floyd. I won't get into it now. A couple of you already know, but email me if you're curious. We'll be holding these Virginia Voices readings and interviews with 2 PSV member poets each second Wednesday of the month at 5:30 p.m. through May of 2023 as a way of celebrating the Centennial and the Poetry Society of Virginia. In each program, we'll hear 3 poems from each poet and ask the same 3 questions. Thank you to all the audience members here on Zoom and those who will watch our recordings on the PSV YouTube stations. Thanks to Bill Glose and Kathleen Decker for posting them. Today, we are thrilled to feature Bill Glose from Yorktown in the Eastern region and Erika Joyner from Roanoke in the Western region. Welcome, Erika and Bill. Erika is a poet, a musician, a harmonizer, and a transgender woman whose self-realization has brought much joy and wisdom into her life. She is published in the 2020 and 21 issues of the Artemis Journal and in the Trans Bodies, Trans Selves anthology. Erika performs her work regularly in and around Roanoke, Virginia, when COVID isn't lurking. She also shoots a mean game of pool. A combat veteran and former paratrooper, Bill Glose is the author of 5 books of poetry. His latest, Postscript to War, was a finalist for the 2021 Library of Virginia Book Award. Glose was named Daily Press Poet Laureate in 2011 and featured by NPR on the Writer's Almanac in 2017. And just in the last couple of days, I'm adding this myself, his short story collection, All the Ruined Men, received a starred review from Publishers Weekly. Congratulations, Bill. Today, we'd like to start by hearing a poem from each of you. Erika, I'd like to start with you.
Okay. You may be getting a take on my view about technology in this poem. So here goes. It's called It's the Latest Thing. I just got me a smartphone implant. rings inside my head, pings my brain. It's insanely quick with all my apps. Perhaps you'd like one too. I view my pics on the back of my eyeballs, and this calls for a celebration. The information age has exploded, loaded my brain with all kinds of useless stuff. Enough of this hunting and pecking each little letter when it's so much better when you can just blink it and think it and blink it off into the cloud. I laugh out loud at how I leave all you texters in the dust. A must in this age of instant everything. Brings multitasking to a whole new level. I revel in how I can cram in the terabytes, baby. Maybe you're getting a little jealous. Hell, us phone thinkers are way out front. Let me be blunt. If you are not phone thinking, you are sinking into oblivion, living on borrowed time. I'm just saying, hold on. I got 6 calls coming in. Now my head's starting to spin, synced in with those ringtones, and something's telling my ear bones to beware. Oh, now crap, my hair is on fire. Oh, a dire situation. Oh, the frustration. My salvation from the mundane up in flames. It's such a shame that this technology makes no apology for collateral damage.
Wonderful. I'm really glad you accepted our invitation to do something on Zoom, Erika, because it doesn't sound like it's your favorite thing to do, probably. What a musical poem, too. Can see your musical background and the rhyme and rhythm of it. Thank you. Bill, how about you?
All right. So there's, we've all been kind of hammered by yet another school shooting, and this poem addresses that. Everything explodes. We're taught early how to get our way, blowing up at any little insult, with conviction of the unjustly persecuted, with certitude that everyone else is wrong, with the fury of Vesuvius erupting. Explode, explode, explode. We shine our petty grievances, scream our indignity, troll anyone whose view differs from our own. And then we bring guns to school. We teach others this lesson we've learned, trench coat flapping in wakes as we stomp through halls and barrels shout bullets at those who disagree. Columbine, Shepherdstown, Red Lake, Uvalde. A heart can explode from plaque or grief, the mechanism failing in one juddering crescendo. We plod along knowing this music in our chests will one day cease its rhythm, and silence will swallow everything we failed to say. So why not yell? Why not shriek? Why not steal the breath from anyone who interrupts? The loudest is always right. So go ahead, explode. Let the hammer strike its cap, the powder flare, the muzzle flash its message. Let the trigger curl around your finger like a lover fitted to its mate. Then point and pull as you explode, explode. And if you aren't quick enough on the draw, go to trade shows for bump stocks and converter kits. Search YouTube for ways to become fully automatic. Then explode, explode in rapid succession. Riddle the world with a brass-jacketed inquisition that seeks no answer. Ask so loud and long you couldn't hear it anyway. Sandy Hook, Parkland, Sparks, Virginia Tech. Little boys, too young to buy pistols, point sticks instead, clutch chests when hit, rolling on the ground in laughing glee. Can't wait till they're old enough to enlist, to raid foreign lands with rifles strapped on shoulders, to burrow into sand while earth shakes from bombs dropped from planes dozens of miles away. Sailing out of clouds, riding a laser beam, igniting their napalmed glory. Each munition grows larger, engineered to be more powerful and deadly than the last, until evolution takes us to the mother of all bombs. Oh, watch it explode, explode, explode. Science can generate such wonder, such despair. Accelerators spin electrons at thousands of miles per second until head-on collisions smash them to pieces. The only way we know to create anything new is to destroy what we already have. Some new elements exist for nanoseconds, but that blink of time is enough to make us dream, to believe what we do actually matters. We want so much to understand our place in the universe that we trace our history back to a speck of matter whose Big Bang set everything into motion. Explode, explode, explode. Another school shooting becomes a headline for a day, then scrolls down the news feed and disappears. We're all so numb, pieces shedding from blackened hearts like frostbite. We bang the drums, we bang the drums, we bang the drums, then roll over as their echoes fade away. Oakland, Oxford, Umpqua, Santa Fe. In the plains of New Mexico, an array of antennas aim skyward to hunt supernovas, brilliant bursts of stars that scorch the dark with their remnants. One day, our sun will explode. Billions of years from now, long after I'm gone, still, I want to sing a dirge for this ball of fire that has given so much to the earth and its inhabitants of blood and bone who want nothing more than to tear it all apart.
Wow. Such a powerful poem and just such a reminder of so much that we've been through, and your way of connecting it with the explosion and the bang, and just the timeliness of hearing it now and just hoping that somehow this time's different. Those little hints, carry me along day by day, but until something actually happens, I don't know what to believe.
I know. It's, as I said, we've all become so numb to this. It is shocking, it is unbelievable, and yet it keeps going on.
And yet somehow hearing it in poetry, as difficult as it is to listen to some of it, it's also a way to get the idea out to the world that something needs to be done.
And mostly in the United States, I think.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. At this point, Bill, we'll just stay with you for a minute. What would you say describes your approach to poetry or to writing poetry?
Right. So I am a writer in multiple genres. You mentioned about my short story collection, and then in addition to fiction, I've been writing for magazines for 22 years. I was the books editor at Virginia Living for 17 years. That was a fun job. And each of those forms has helped the other. What poetry has helped me do when writing either fiction or nonfiction is it has taught me to focus on every word. Every word in poetry matters. You know, whether you place the article before a noun or not matters. You know, there is a music in the lines and in the stanzas. And in addition to the music that you're putting into your poem, there's a dance between you writing it and the reader reading it. Every reader comes to a poem with their own life history and backstory. So every reader reads a poem differently. You know, what one person takes away from it may be a 180 from what someone else does. For me, when I do write them, I'm not seeking to tell someone what this is supposed to mean. I'm not seeking answers. I'm just asking questions. So for me, what poetry is a form of exploration. It's exploring things I don't understand or things that I feel passionately about, or just whatever is confusing me or is on my mind. I use poetry to explore those things.
A lot of times I feel like I've read poetry that's based in your experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean everything's factual in them. Is that correct?
Yeah, and for me, I will often try to go into the third person when I'm being inventive. I'll say, you do this and you do that and you see this and you see that. Right. And when I'm saying I am trying to base it on my actual experiences. Although, I may still decide to tell it slant a little bit, making sure that the lines serve the poem instead of serving my history.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. And Erika, tell us a little bit about how you see your approach to poetry.
Well, I see myself as a seat of the pants poet. I'm not particularly well read as far as other poetry goes. And I've only been writing for about 5 years. So it's all very new to me. And I guess the two things that I would like my poetry to do is be relevant and be accessible, so that I don't want to get off into the clouds with letting my mind go wild. I just or writing a treatise that is disguised as a poem. I just want to write what I've experienced and what I see around me and how it makes me feel. I don't have any particular style or genre. I just kind of write it as it comes, and sometimes it's tight rhymed couplets and specific meter, and sometimes it's just totally free flowing. Sometimes I take a look at a poem I've done and something tells me it has to be in 4-line stanzas. And so, I'll make it be in 4-line stanzas, and then that satisfies me. It's just kind of how it all comes out of the hopper.
Yeah, I think that sounds interesting, because a lot of times it's not until you've written that those kinds of dictates come to you. I mean, it's in the process or after the process of the first draft that those kinds of ideas come to you often, or at least in my experience, rather than like okay, before you start kind of plan.
Yeah. I'll get a notion about a certain connection between two odd things or odd happenstances, and um, I'll kind of file it away in my mind, and then the next chance I get to sit down, I'll just sort of see what happens.
Great. So, Bill, how about another poem from you?
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for a second here because the next poem I'm going to read refers to, see if I can find it. Yeah, so so this picture here comes from Yorktown battlefields. The cannons are nearby, and all the and the fences, and all the tourists are off on the side. And Dawn and I were there flying a kite. So that's a biplane kite with a trailing tail. So that has to do with this poem. So this is photo op. The waning sun strikes cannons atop Yorktown battlefields redoubts, throwing long shadows across a grassy sward where tourists cluster around placards in reverence. I don't point my cannon at iron-barreled tools of revolution, or the zigzag split-rail fence forming a skirmish line beside the gravel parking lot. I aim instead at Dawn as she runs, laughing, towing her new red kite, like bumper-tied cans behind a couple just married. Shaped like a biplane with a fluttering tail, the kite never rises more than 5 feet off the ground, corkscrewing in Dawn's wake as she races back and forth, chasing the fog-wreathed memory of how easy it had been in pastures of our youth, every remembered whim capturing air to climb into clouds, trying like hell to carry us along.
Beautiful images. I love the way you juxtapose the battlefield concepts with this childlike experience, but even more interesting that it's, you know, adults practicing this childlike, you know, game in a sense. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Keeping that sense of whimsy.
Yep. Erika, another poem from you?
Okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox on this one.
Okay.
This one's called An Independence Day Message for Us White Folks. This is America, land of the free, land of opportunity for you and me. But who is the you? Who is the me? Who are the recipients, the beneficiaries? Who are the ones who get a free pass because of their race, gender, or class? Who met the indigenous with violence and hate? Who assigned them all to such a cruel fate? Who brought the Africans, tied them up in chains? Who doesn't see all that still remains? Who met Reconstruction with lynching and with guns? Who said that white folks were the chosen ones? Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black wealth did abound. White folks couldn't stand it, so they burned it to the ground. Black churches burned, Medgar Evers killed. The work of Martin Luther King, a fatal bullet stilled. Incarcerated Black men from Nixon's war on drugs that told all of us white folks that they're a bunch of thieves and thugs. Right here in Roanoke, take a look around. The Berglund Center stands on hallowed black ground. Gainsborough, Henry Street, vibrant in its day. Blacks were paid a pittance, then they were swept away. So as we get together on Independence Day, let us all remember who has had to pay. It's in collective memory. It's in our DNA. It's baked into relationships going on today. How can we right the wrongs, this evil from the past? How can we build a future that promises to last? Black Lives Matter is a movement, not a threat. Its love will serve us all if its goals are finally met. People, do your homework. Learn to read between the lines. Don't become the fodder that the status quo defines. When you are with Black folks, leave your bias at the door. Don't assume you have the right to open any drawer. If you're called a racist, don't take it on the chin. Just realize it's the fabric that we're all woven in. So this is America. It's up to you and me. Is this the land of the I or the land of the we?
Wow. Definitely something that's important for us to hear as we move toward our next Independence Day. I really love the image of baked into relationships and the love associated with Black Lives Matter instead of the opposite that seems to be constantly mentioned. And it was really interesting the way you took us on a little tour of the country in a sense, and then focused in on Roanoke. And, you know, I liked that specificity that you brought to the place that you are.
Yeah, I put that in especially for when I perform the poem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that area. Yeah,
In that
that's
area,
great.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So, Erika, we'll stay with you for now and ask you the PSV membership question. What led you to become a PSV member, and how has it made a difference to you, if it has?
Well, I have to admit that the way I found PSV was I noticed that there was a contest, and you had to pay $35 to get into the contest. And then I noticed in a footnote, oh, this $35 can buy you a membership. So I thought, okay, what the heck? And put my money down and sent my poems in, and none of them got accepted. and then I just sort of forgot about it. And then I'm trying to remember the chronology here. And then the Arts Pop happened at Taubman, and Angela contacted me and asked me to read there. And then I met Kim Ports Parsons there, and she and I read, and she was extremely enthusiastic about PSV, and said, you gotta check it out. There's all these wonderful things. And so I started checking it out, and by golly, there were a bunch of wonderful things. And then Angela contacted me again, and doing her due diligence, and said that there's a poetry event that PSV is putting on up in Floyd. Do you want to come read? And I said, sure. And I just loved it. There were just so many good poets there, and the stuff I read seemed to be appreciated pretty well. So I just thought, boy, and the quality and just the style and the way it was presented, I just thought, well, now this is an organization that knows what they're doing. So
that's wonderful. And don't feel too discouraged about the contest. I think there are many of us who have sent multiple poems in on any given year and won nothing.
That's why I'm laughing instead of going like this.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And Bill, how about you? You've been a member a while, I think, right?
Oh yeah, so what got me into the Poetry Society was actually a couple of members. Nancy Powell, who eventually became one of the PSV presidents, and Ange Lasky, who is you know, one of the stalwarts in the poetry community on the peninsula. You know, both of them encouraged me to, you know, come on out to, they kept telling me about this wonderful community of poets who are so supportive of each other. And, you know, and so I came out, I started going to some of the Saturday Poetry Series events and met more people. And, you know, the first couple of years I was like, okay, I'll join for a year. I'll join for another year. And finally I did the lifetime membership. And, you know, what the Poetry Society has brought me is it has expanded my community. It is not just the community I would meet just going to my local open mics. It has taken me all over the state. As you know, I do.
Incoming message.
Sorry about that. Let me turn my email off. Yeah, so it's taking me all over the state. I run this video channel called Virginia Poetry Online. It's a YouTube channel. And I go around the state attending poetry readings and filming the poets and then posting them on YouTube. And I've posted over 1,200 videos so far. And, you know, I've gotten to go to readings all over the state, and, you know, and each place, the group of people that I've met there, I've been welcomed into the community. It's been as if I've been part of their community the whole time. And that's what the Poetry Society has done for me.
Well, and your service with the videos is you know, invaluable. Just being able to go back and listen to somebody, even if you were at an event and you just like to hear it again, it's really been helpful. I wonder if Ann Shalasky had mentored you in also giving back to classrooms, because I know she spent a lot of time in classrooms, and you know, you've worked with students of mine before, so I wondered if that connection was part of it.
Yeah, you know, so Ann and I, we've done a lot of events together, judged contests, gone and taught in classrooms, and pretty much I've gone anywhere where there's been a desire. I've been to prisons, I've been to writers' conferences and retreats. I haven't yet been out to the Floyd Festival. You know, that's one we were talking about before, and I need to get out there one of these times. But
yeah, put it on your list. It's fun for sure.
It sure is.
So let's go ahead and hit the third question, and then we'll close out with a third poem from each of you. So Erika, what would you like to see the PSV do as we move forward beyond the first 100 years?
100 years, that's a long time.
It is. But like any time, I mean, this is the 100th year that we're celebrating now. Well, we're celebrating a little early for 2023. But following that, can you see us moving in any particular directions that would interest you, or, you know, anything that you see in the future or would like to see?
Well, I guess I'd like to see as much grassroots poetry, maybe what I would even call guerrilla poetry, happening on street corners and in outside of the county courthouse, or you know, at the local 7-Eleven. I don't know, just people popping up and doing poetry. And if there was any way to have that be organized by a group such as PSV, or maybe funded through grants, just a way of getting poetry out there to the masses, but doing it, you know, face to face, so you can actually touch people, and both figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
So that's been rattling around in my head. Let's see.
Those are great ideas so far, and I'll just say we really would benefit from some volunteers to do grant writing in the Poetry Society, because we're always talking about it, and sometimes I did get a grant for my In the Company of Laureates event, but like every time we talk about doing something, it seems like the grant idea is always thought of, but not always followed through with, because it is a lot of work.
Yeah. Are you guys a 501c?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great, great. Another thing I thought of, and I don't know how the heck you would do this, but I think there are so many issues currently that are showing up the immorality of the system as it stands right now, and where old white men have led us so far, and the history of the development of very harmful institutions, et cetera, et cetera. So it comes down to me, a question of morality. And where else are you going to address morality but in the churches? So I wonder if there's some way to get poetry into the churches without getting run out of the city on a rail.
That's interesting.
Haven't given it any further thought than that. I know I'm involved with the Unitarian Universalist Church in Roanoke, and we put on a poetry event that was very successful. And we want to, I don't have the bandwidth to organize it at this point, but we really want to do something monthly, a Sunday afternoon, you know.
Yeah.
A different atmosphere, and bring in some spirituality to the whole experience.
That sounds really interesting. I don't really know a whole lot, but I will just say that I spoke with Jim Best at the Floyd Festival, and he seems to have been involved with something in Floyd that was trying to make connections to the Black churches there. Anyway, he might be, he's on Facebook, and I just became friends with him there. You might look him up.
Yeah, I know him. He's a good friend.
You do? Okay. You already know him. That's good.
I think Jim's involved in has got to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And how about you, Bill? What are you seeing in our future?
Well, what I would like to see is I would like to see us embrace the digital possibilities of poetry, especially on the video frontier. I've already mentioned, how I film readings, but in addition to that, I've created a number of poetry movies, let's say. So trying to either set either like a slideshow or to actually film some action that corresponds to the poem itself as the poet narrates over that. And I think there are a lot of possibilities there, and so I'd like to see us embrace that. Poetry in so many ways is visual. Once you get it on the page, it's visual as well. The way you form it. Erika had mentioned before, sometimes she imagines it as a 4-line stanza, something else that just occurs to her that this is the way it should be. And the shape of a poem, matters. It's part of the art of the poem. And sometimes someone will create a shape that looks like something, or, they'll have these semi breaks to show a frantic pace or sense, things like that. And I think we can take that same sensibility and apply it to video in creating poems. I think it's an untapped field, and I think we could embrace that and do a lot with it.
I agree that I've seen some beautiful examples of those. I'm not the one to know how to go about making it happen, but I appreciate your expertise or other people's to make it happen. And I think that's a really untapped resource for education too, because I think a lot more students who maybe have a little bit more trouble with reading the words of a poem, especially in a poem that's more dense, they could appreciate it so much more easily if they could visualize it the way a film or a slideshow would allow. What a great idea. I bet VCA would give a grant for that kind of project too.
Bill, do you envision animation as well?
Oh, certainly. You know, I don't have any skills with that, but I have seen other people work with animation in two different forms. I've seen people either doing the stop motion things, you know, like you see with claymation and things like that. I've seen people, you know, create scenes that way. But also there are a lot of apps online where they'll draw cartoons. You know, an app will create cartoons for you. And I've seen some people have poems that go along with the cartoons as they play out. So yeah, I see that as well. It's not something I have any experience with myself, but I'm always excited when I see one of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think we're really doing pretty well with time, and that we have enough time for the final two poems, and that might take us to the end. Let's see what happens. Erika, do you want to go first this time?
Sure.
Okay.
I got to bring it up here. The first one I had in my head, but these other ones I don't. This is called A Trans Woman's Fantasy. I was living in the moment it was mine. The audience attentive as I read each heartfelt line. A bond had been created with our wavelengths all aligned by words that weave the spell, revealing soul to soul entwined. Then I heard a voice in back, a sudden blatant cry. Oh my God, I can't believe that girl up there is a guy. In an instant, spell undone, I started wondering why a person would be rude enough to turn the mood awry. Again, he raised his voice to say, what a sorry sight. I didn't come to listen to some pervert transvestite. The words stopped flowing from my mouth. My poem came undone. A restless silence filled that space, a cloud across my sun. I looked around the room and thought, am I the only one who felt the sting of hateful words, the curse of social shun? Then a voice nearby that man said, what gives you the right to trample on the dignity of any here tonight? Another voice on down from her said, do you think you might treat her like all human beings that deserve God's light? All eyes turned upon that man who thought he had the floor. He left his seat, turned on his heel, and headed out the door. Then my listeners turned their gaze toward the front once more and urged me to continue, our bond stronger than before.
Very powerful. And it occurs to me that actually there's some talking back and forth between your poems and in terms of just the move toward human justice, you know, justice for all humans, and even some imagery in common. I just, the clouds and the sun imagery struck me in that particular poem. And I remembered, Bill, in your earliest poem that, you know, that was a significant part as well. Thank you so much. Bill?
Okay, well, as I mentioned about digital possibilities, so I have a a poetry movie that I'm going to share with you now. The Mouth of Sand by Bill Glose. Outside our tents, wind-whipped brown lances every sliver of exposed skin. Canvas walls billow like gasping lungs as we spit gouts of sand-flecked phlegm and listen to a low-pitched keening like the moaning of a bassoon. Truth is like the scouring grit of wind, precious lies stripped away to leave one naked as a newborn calf. Sand inside our goggles, our gloves, our underwear, the interior mechanisms of our guns, bolts cracked open to reveal powder as fine as regolith scooped from the moon. A surface without atmosphere, without sound. Every granule loves to tell the story of how it once belonged to a mountain, before the pulverizing sledge of time, before the yowl of wind eroded every falsehood to which it clung.
I had just told Bill that I had read that poem yesterday because I got his book when I was in Williamsburg. But how wonderful to see it with all those images that really help someone who doesn't have the kind of experience that you do to really feel it, you know, on another level more than what my brain can conjure as I'm reading the poem.
Yeah, I mean, when you say sandstorm, you know, people get an idea, but they just don't really conceptualize how all-consuming it really is. And I think when you get the visual aspect of it in there too, I think that helps carry that across.
Yeah. And I don't remember where I heard or read this recently, but it was something about how many years did it take you to get the sand out of your ears or something like that, like that was, you know, a real, I mean, is that real or is that an exaggeration? I don't know.
Well, I don't know about years to get it out of ears, but there'll be, you know, things like you'll have a pocket notebook that you have, and you'll come and look at that, and you could look at that a year later, and sand will fall out of it, you know, that fine powdery sand, you know. So anything that you have not cleaned off and gotten rid of, there is sand in everything.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you do continue to discover it for quite a while after you get home.
There's a poem for sure in that whole image of opening up your notebook a year after that whole, you know, experience, and then having that sand fall out.
Yep, yeah, there certainly is.
Well, I think that we're just about at time, and I think this has been such a wonderful experience with both of you and your poems, and so many interesting answers to your questions, and some things that I think we should bring up at a board meeting at some point for ideas for maybe even the Centennial celebration or beyond. So thank you so much, Erika and Bill. It's been amazing. And everybody will be doing this every month to celebrate poetry, adding to the web of poetry connections that we can each make across the state. We would love to see you all each month. In July, we'll be featuring Joanna Lee of Richmond, the Central Region Vice President, and Steve Booker, who lives in Marshall, Virginia, in the Northwest. So we'll continue to try to, bring some diversity to each meeting and to learn more about different people's answers to these same questions.
Thank you for doing this and for leading this today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Angela will take the lead next time. We're trading off with the verbal versus the chat. That way we don't step on each other's toes, and it is better for the timing, I think.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Angela, did you want to add anything for the moment?
No, I'm just thrilled everyone was here. This was a wonderful show, like I knew it would be. And I just look forward to the next one. And I hope we'll see y'all again too. Please join us.
Absolutely. And thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Great.
I think that all went well.
Do you want to stop the recording, Angela?
Yes, let me do that.